Okay, so glossary term seven, eight. What are numbers? Sonder. Now, Sonder is a very important part of our show. It is the idea that every single story happening around us is an aspect of someone's life. Every person walking past is living a life as intricate and as important to them as your own is to you.
It's actually, if we're getting technical, it's the opposite of the idea of solipsism. The contained, that you are, in some cases, the only thing that is real, which is something we did look at.
We explored. Yeah. It's a prospect we explored. Early on.
Again, I think it's, going back to keep using terminology, two sides of the coin. The idea that you are completely alone and at the same time insignificant in the
grander scheme of things. So speaking of being insignificant in the grander scheme of things, also collaborators, people who helped us.
I'm sorry, you're like talking about us being insignificant, people who helped us get to this point. We actually, as we said in our proposal, and just now at the Tate Modern, we pretty much accepted there were some
aspects that we weren't as skilled at as other people we knew.
Okay, so let's Rachel, we mentioned Sam Howard. Okay, so I realise we're kind of preaching to the crowd here. Sam Howard is a practitioner in clowning and street theatre. And so Sam came in and gave us a pretty intensive. You did not feel well.
I was injured as it was, and not particularly healthy at the time.
And I think what he was talking about, he especially brought it in sort of commedia techniques, and able to break down our relationship into you ended up being Pantalone, and I was Jalapeno, and which pretty much
informed us, really.
Yeah,
it was a huge part of information of how our characters respond to one another, and also how we responded to the objects in space, people in the space.
And actually, strange enough, as you're probably seeing, it pretty much our personalities as it is, really.
Yes.
Yeah, Lawrence just loves to play the money, and I just I want to eat everything.
He does want to eat everything, it's crazy. It's mad. We had to stop in Northern Gate on our way here. So that was a very important part of our practice. It was recommended early on that we maybe get some active training in. So that was the approach we took. We went, right, this is a specific active training that we need to work on as clown. We then also had Jesse.
Jess Kaufman is a dramaturg and vocally trained artist. So what Jess did for us is that we used she kind of helped dramaturgically throughout, but the main focus was we were looking at her to help us vocally, because we taught the entire show and different levels to be able to save our voices, and a lot of even strange enough, so like the little warm-up exercises, I always felt that was the major thing. We were like, okay,
huge contribution.
Actually, this is going to sound weird. We weren't doing major vocal warm-up, we were focusing on the body, and we were kind of letting the vocal carry, as it were. So again, sort of, I'd be interested to hear the audiences who are outside just thinking quiet, and then just hearing us go, they thrust their fists against the post and still insist she sees the ghosts. So Jess was massively helpful for that. And then actually, we used that, and then handing over the script, she was able to say, right, break it down. It was Jess who very much made it clear that I was the protagonist of this story, and Lawrence was a kindly antagonist.
Yes, I suppose kindly antagonist.
Yeah, again,
summation of it.
If you're thinking about a protagonist who wants to reach an ending, and an antagonist is the person who holds it back, I was trying to go on a very different journey. You were trying to. I mean, there's a set talking about solipsism. There was the implication that I might be the only thing that was real.
Aspect of it.
Which is a big question to ask an audience to imply that they're not real, and they'll go, but we are. You're not.
Not unless we say you are. Yes, so one of the many reasons we've asked Jess to come in and help us is there were moments where, because we were doing quite quiet scenes or scenes that required less of our normal shouty, buoyant selves, we tended to talk quite quietly, and this lost some of the enunciation that we needed to actually get it projected properly. We also had dear Miss Bonza, Tierra Bonza.
Hi, Pierre. Tierra is
a dramaturg and performer, and she was incredibly useful in getting us back on the right track of our performance. Tom is laughing.
Yeah, Tierra.
Tierra can be absolutely brutal, which is what we absolutely need.
I'm trying to remember what the lacuna is, Rick. But there's a term about finding beauty in broken things. Miss Bonza kicked our show to smithereens and then went, let's piece it back together. And
that was the death knell.
Yeah, you got really you were tired.
I was very tired, I was ill, I was suffering greatly, and then the carpet was very much whipped from under our feet, which is what we needed.
You'd been ill for about a month, so there was a period where we weren't really, like we were working, but we weren't able to actually get into it. You weren't able to physically stand.
Yes.
So we were trying to just get it, and then I was like, okay, it was unfortunate timing that the first thing we had when we were properly back together was Tierra going, I do not get what your show is saying, you are doing like 6 different strands, focus. What are you interested in? I said, I'm really interested in the aspect of there being a missing third member of the company. And she was like, great, focus on that. Now think about, does everything make sense within this world?
And it was a very helpful thing. And we got it, and we went straight out of that and brought it back to praxis, brought it back to what we are doing. Why are we doing it? What are we doing? That's all that needs to be done. Finding those little moments of cohesiveness in it and rolling on.
I'm going to say this, that I think this is actually quite interesting that, we've had this discussion that, as I said, drink, as well as keep saying praxis. We were doing praxis the entire time, but we did not realise this was the term. And I think that's actually really, and this is the advantage about having collaborators who come in and say, you are doing this, which just speeds up the process so much when we're able to say, we're doing, we are using, we're using Praxis, we're using Johnston, when trying to explain it to, sort of other venues, maybe go, this is what we do, very definitive, being able to also use, let's say, heightened language and also then bring it down and say,
and this is the big term, but this is what it is for us. And that was a lot of collaboration has been helping us elucidate that area of our practice.
I think also the interesting thing, because I apologise, but it's become my catchphrase. Interesting drink. That we went into it thinking our collaborators would go, well, we've seen Tom and Lawrence, and then they were like, no, very much. More Tom and Lawrence. Which I really do think is something that more people should expect. There's a case of sometimes you see stuff and people are like, I can't sing, but I want to give myself a challenge. It's like, what you can do, don't rest on your laurels. If you physically can't sing, try something,
Try something that you can possibly achieve, maybe. Unless you're exploring the idea of failure.
If you're exploring the idea of failure, yes. Which, in a way, we kind of did.
We explored failure in various parts of the practice. I mean, a lot of the recordings and stuff we've done, there are moments where we just fail. And it's finding those moments that really define our practice.
I argue it's not even full failure, it's just part of it.
Success in another way.
Yeah, we're not retreating, we're advancing backwards.
Speaking of success,
we should mention Terry.
Terry, you were a wonderful, lovely man.
Yes, who was immensely useful, who pointed out the show was a love story, but not between the two of us. Again, he was our first real
He was our first real audience member. He was a go-to point that we would always reflect and say, what do you think of this idea? And he would be very good at just going, this, I can feel this. So it's a lovely moment when we first presented the full script of the original sort of show. And it was essentially, you've written a play in ATP. How did that happen? It was an interesting point to make. And yes, Terry was bringing all these things to Terry and having him there just to say, this is interesting, this is good, this is worth working with, this is worth playing with. This I'm not sure about. Can you explain it to me? And making us explain our practice.
That was also quite, just by the oddity of timing, that Terry never actually got to see the final project. But having to go to him and say, this is what we're doing, it's actually what they call the teddy bear technique. That if you've got something particularly complex, describe it to a teddy bear, like or a tortoise, So yes, Terry was always
instrumental,
always present.
You're always present.
Yeah. I hope he's proud of us. He's not dead.
He's not dead.
I'm not dead. Moving swiftly on.
Going this way, are we?
No, we're not. The security does not want us going that way.